Hello and welcome to the Screen Chronicles. I'm Steve.
And I'm Colby.
And what are we talking about today, Colby?
We're talking about one of our favorite things ever that we discovered together when we roomed together. Yes, you and me. Yes. Do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it? This is a long-anticipated episode. The Last Kingdom.
The Last Kingdom, everybody.
Yes.
So
finally, we've talked about it like every episode so far.
We've invited.
Unfortunately, Alexander Draymond was not able to come on today, but we're still going to ask that he come on at some point.
Oh yeah, a lot of scheduling conflicts. You know, busy world going on right now. A lot of changes and things, and he just couldn't make it. You know, I mean,
yeah.
And it's we're practicing social distancing anyway, so like
that's right.
Could I resist giving him a hug right now?
Probably not. No. Probably not. So that's what we're gonna start today with season 1 of the show. There's currently 3 seasons out, and in April of 2020 coming up. We're very excited. They announced they're going to be releasing season 4 on Netflix.
Yeah, I think April 28th. April 28th is when I think it comes out.
So we're extremely excited about that. It honestly became my favorite show, I think, ever.
Yeah, if you listen to our other episodes, anyone listening now, you saw then our top 10 our shows of the 2010s. We both had this is our top 10, and it probably, like you said, it really has turned into my favorite show. I mean, I've watched, I just rewatched season 1 again recently, but I had already watched it through 2 or 3 times before that.
I don't even know how many times.
So and you've watched it with me one time through the whole way, and I think we watched second half of season 2 and 3 together when I was rewatching them again. But you had already rewatched them before I was rewatching them with one of your cousins or something, correct?
Well,
and then and now you're watching it with your girlfriend now too. Yeah. And you just finished season 2 recently too?
Yeah,
correct?
We just finished season 2, and we rewatched the last episode of season 2 because I fell asleep, even though I've seen it a bunch of times.
It's a good one.
It's a really good one. I mean, we'll get there in another episode, and we'll talk about why that one's so good. But so very, very excited to do this episode because we're very passionate about this show.
Heck yeah!
Really knock it out of the park, and so super excited. But before we get into it, we just want to kind of do a little status of what's going on in the real world right now. It's March 24th. World's closed. Earth is closed today. But we're dealing with the COVID-19 outbreak pretty much globally at this point. And Steve and I are currently practicing social distancing, self-isolation. Steve's in 14-day quarantine right now. So,
yeah, I mean, we don't know if I was exposed. We don't know if. So I'll just give a brief rundown. The clinic I was doing rotation at had another therapist who's a floater. So she's in and out of a bunch of different clinics covering for PTs when they're off. She was at a clinic on Monday of last week, not our clinic, and she was exposed to someone who had COVID-19. She just found out then on Wednesday that she was exposed to that person. I interacted with her on Tuesday when she came to our clinic, the therapist. We don't know if she's positive or not, though, but we were swapping computers. I was up close talking to her, and then that evening I come home, I live with my girlfriend. So it's potentially we both could have been infected then if I was infected by that other therapist to my girlfriend. So we're both just really isolating ourselves right now. Mm-hmm. It's day 6 for us since I found out, and we started isolating ourselves. So we know neither of us have any symptoms yet. I'm hoping we don't. But yeah, so that's that's the freaking world right now, man.
It is. It's pretty crazy. The way it's affected my life is my girlfriend had just recently gone abroad to her home, or I should say to Argentina, where she saw her nephew. She was there when her nephew was born. That was the whole plan of the trip. And she got to be there for it. But 4 or 5 days after she arrived is when the world started like going into lockdown. It pretty much happened overnight or over a couple nights. And for a little while there, they had an order that anybody that came from the U.S. had to go into a 14-day quarantine. So she tried to come home early when she saw it was getting crazy. They said, no, you can't. You're in quarantine. You have to stay. So she made a flight for like the day after her quarantine ended. She made a line of flights, and it was a bumpy ride. We're really unsure of how it was going to go, but the good news is that this morning she got back into the U.S. She is in quarantine right now, and feeling pretty good about that. So there's some good news amongst all this bad news that's been going on out in the world, and yeah, pretty happy about that. So
yeah, I mean, it's like you said, we talked about it in our Jedi Fallen Order talk. It really just started happening when we made that episode. It felt like it was an overnight change. I mean, it was, Wednesday, everything seemed fine, or at least for me. And then I came home and there was an address from the president. And then since then, it's just been like this, you hear a new thing every day. Now this is closed. No one do this. I mean, it's been crazy how it's been changing. We hope that this episode makes you chill out some, though.
Yeah. So we don't want to talk about it too much because it's all anybody thinks about right about now. We kind of want to get away from it. But we thought it was right to kind of fill in on what's going on with us with it, and just if it's still going on when this episode comes out, just please stay inside, be smart. Social distance. That's the big thing here. But yeah.
Social distancing. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. I mean, I mean, it sucks, but we've all got to do it right now and help each other out. So
yeah, absolutely. So anyway, let's move past the virus a little bit. We got that out, and let's talk about some Last Kingdom. Let's talk about something that makes us very happy.
So for everyone who doesn't know, if you haven't seen or you haven't watched or heard our other episode where we talked about our favorite show in the top 10 shows, you should check it out, though. But the Last Kingdom, it's a show on Netflix right now. It originally was on the BBC. The British Broadcasting Channel. That's what that stands for. And and so originally was on that. It was airing weekly, like how shows traditionally would. And then I think halfway through or at the end, Netflix ended up picking up the show and airing the show on Netflix. And then Netflix had the rights and put out all of season 3 of The Last Kingdom on Netflix. And when we had been binging other shows before we saw this, we had watched Daredevil, Punisher, Bodyguard, and we were just what do we do now?
Yeah, and I think even before, we had seen the show pop up on Netflix, and we watched the trailer. I gotta say, we probably watched the trailer 3 or 4 times, and every time we watched the trailer, we were just like, "Meh, this doesn't look that good. This looks like kind of a cheap version of some kind of medieval hack and slash kind of show."
Yeah,
it doesn't look like it, So we honestly kind of judged it by the trailer, which the trailer really only represented the first episode of the series.
Even just a little.
Even just
the first episode.
Probably the first half, if that, of the first episode. That's all it represented. So it was really tough to get a read on the show from the trailer. So it was not something that really pulled us in to watch it. But once we reached the point of we kind of ran out of options of shows to watch, I think that's what made us try it, right?
Yeah.
We were like, let's give it a shot.
It was always a show that was recommended for me. It was like the percentages you have. It was like 90-some%. It was like something high. Yeah. But sometimes those are misleading because I remember Bird Box was recommended to me from Netflix. And I was like, no, Netflix, I'm not watching this. I don't watch the scary things. And
Steve loves scary stuff.
And it's, the trailer wasn't very, the trailer does the show no justice. I mean, it's like you said, not at all. That is not what the show to me is in essence, that trailer. It's not. And it's, we saw the percentage though. We were out of things to watch. I was like, is this, because there's, no offense, Netflix. I like, there's a lot of great things on Netflix, but Netflix puts out, more content than quality content sometimes.
Yeah, quantity over quality a little bit, yeah.
Yes. So I was like, this looks like it might be like a cheap knockoff version of Vikings, which I had never watched. I wasn't really interested in watching that show either. But then when we got into the show though, and I mean, episode or two in, I'm probably even halfway through the first episode. Yeah. Probably less than halfway through the first episode.
You were hooked.
We were hooked. And I think we watched it so quickly, the whole show.
Oh my God.
I think we slowed down a little bit during season 3 just because we had like a test or something coming up around that time. So we couldn't be binging as many shows at one time. So we were breaking up like one or two a night or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, 1 through 2 was like one sitting for us, man. It was like I didn't know where one episode ended and the other one season ended.
And I remember when we went back to talk about it, we couldn't identify what episode we were talking about at first because we just watched like so many at one time and it just kind of kept running and we were just like, oh yeah, he lived through the whole episode or something. And you were like, no, he died like in episode 4. And I was like, what?
Yeah, because that's the thing too. When I was watching it through this time and I was doing notes, the episodes are so dense. And the second time I watched the whole thing through, I was more aware of that. But this time when I was taking notes, I was like, wow, there's like 1,000 things that happen in this episode, but it never feels rushed. It never feels like it's too much.
Clunky or rushed or anything like that.
Yeah, one of our complaints about The Rise of Skywalker was it felt like there was too much in it.
Rise of Skywalker had awesome content, but it was just a little too much for a 2-hour, 15-minute movie.
Yeah,
it just didn't flow well.
A 1-episode, 1-hour Uhtred epic, and like 10,000 things happen. A character might be introduced and die in that episode, and you've already fallen in love with them.
You feel like you've known them for like ever, for like a whole season. You feel like you've known them. I don't know how it works like that. And we'll talk about it more when we start getting into the spoiler talk. Right now we're doing a little non-spoiler talk.
Yeah, non-spoiler for you right now.
But pretty much it goes like, this is how I try to sell the show to people. I kind of bring up something like Game of Thrones, and I'll say, do you like Game of Thrones? Most people say yeah, except for season 8, right? And I'll say, how Game of Thrones has like a lot of incredibly awesome and like jaw-dropping moments, moments that get you pumped and stuff. But in between those moments, there's all these like 2 to 3 episode boring talking dialogue episodes. I could say the same thing for another one of my favorite shows, Breaking Bad. It's still incredible shows, but the style, they have a lot of build. Last Kingdom, like you get all of that every episode. You get 2, 3, 4 like amazing moments like every episode, and it doesn't feel too much. You know what I mean? It's crazy. All the credit in the world to the creators of The Last Kingdom for sure. But that's how I try to sell people on it, is that you will not be disappointed, as far as you will not be bored, like ever. And then I'll also tell them this. I'll also say it's got everything. It's funny. It's got action, great fighting scenes, great war scenes. It's got great acting, great character development, and great plots. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but
I mean,
it hits all the boxes.
It's got, like you said, the action, everything like that. It's got the intrigue. It's got people plotting. it's got you thinking, oh, this evil person's gonna win out the day, and then Uhtred somehow beats them, and it never feels like repetitive or like it's always new and fresh. And I mean,
it makes you feel. Oh, does it make you feel? You'll go through all the emotions. You'll feel.
Yeah.
You'll be pumped. You'll get sad. You'll get angry a lot. You know, and you'll be satisfied. And quite frankly, you'll be satisfied a lot. So, you know, I could go on all day with a list of how good the show is without spoiling it. But maybe we should just give a brief synopsis of what it's all about.
Yeah.
Before we get into the spoiler talk.
For sure. So the setting of this show is in the 9th century, England specifically. During that time period, so this show's like a historical fiction show.
Yeah.
It's based on the book by Bernard Cornwell, book series by Bernard Cornwell. And actually, Bernard Cornwell, I was listening to a podcast, and I looked it up on the internet too, is that he said he had an ancestor in his family that was Uhtred. Their name was Uhtred or Uhtred or something to that effect, who had a plot of land or the castle or something in Bebbanburg or Bebbanburg, depending on where you hear it. And so he wanted to sort of connect into this real historical era and put some fiction in it, give it some spice. So Uhtred, the main character, he's the fictional guy that you see like the events happening through. He's got all he kind of helps the plot move along. He gives you both perspectives.
Yes.
So at that time in England, Alfred, or some people might even know him as Alfred the Great, he was a Anglo-Saxon king in the country, what is now called England, but at the time it was just a bunch of separate countries or little tribes, and everyone in their own little place was a little king. And he was the one that kind of got the idea of everyone needs to be united under one king, one country. And part of the reason that is at the same time that this was going on, he was fighting off, him and the rest of the Saxons were fighting off a Danish invasion, or the Vikings, as you might have heard. Vikings are coming in, they're raiding. The land in England's more fertile. They're getting
heathens. Pagans are coming. Yes.
The land's more fertile and everything, so they want the land, they want silver, they want land and silver, you know?
Yeah.
So they're coming in. So Alfred, one of the reasons he's known as Alfred the Great, he was the king who sort of united everyone. He kept England alive while also fighting off huge Danish armies, you know, great warriors. And that's Uhtred. That's what he's going through right now. He's seeing this, but at the same time, he's having his own adventures. And Uhtred was from, we'll talk about it when we get into spoiler stuff, but he was actually
I think it's fair to tell who Uhtred is without. I don't think that's a spoiler because I think that's just the main premise of the show.
Yeah. You know? So he was born Saxon and then captured and raised by Danes or Vikings. Still in England.
So he's kind of
because Danes are setting up in England. Yeah. So that's really what the show is kind of about, is the two worlds that he lives in, his internal conflict. He has his own motivations, but at the same time he wants to do what's right because he was born Saxon, but he has Danish values and perspectives on things, which really clashes. So he's kind of a guy of two worlds, but kind of a guy of neither. But great guy, hilarious guy, charming, freaking charming. This is Alexander Draymond who plays Uhtred, by the way. And
if you can't tell, we both have a big man crush on Uhtred. But yes, this you nailed it on the head there, Steve. Setting up the show, but I think what makes the interesting perspective is Uhtred's position. And he's just trying to figure out where he lies on the aisle. You know, which side of the aisle he lies on.
Yeah.
And let's, I feel like we should just get into the spoiler talk now. Is there anything else you wanted to say before?
Maybe just real quick. A couple of the other things I like about the show, just general stuff, is like the tone of it. It's kind of dark. It's kind of humor. It's got emotional, it's everything. And another thing too is, I don't know, but it looks like there's a lot of like natural lighting, natural sets.
That's a good point, because the way it films, I think that's a big part. I think that's
big part of the show.
I think that shouldn't be underestimated, because let's take example. We watched
Nightfall.
Season 1 of Nightfall is, it's set during medieval times with the Knights Templar, and the lighting just looked like they would be in a castle, and it just looked like there were just LED spotlights. I mean, everything was like perfect and clean, and like whenever they were outside, like their clothes were clean. They were like, their haircuts were like nice, like, you know what I mean? It looked kind of weird, and not realistic for the time period.
Yeah. Everything in the Last Kingdom looks real, but shitty, but beautiful. And
yeah. And it looks like, when they're in a room and it's daytime, it doesn't look like there's another light on in that room.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when they film it, they've got the lighting crew and they have lights to make it look like that, because it's pretty difficult to do, to get on film.
Some of the outside shots, though, I mean, when they're like outside and like they're like, I remember when Uhtred's coming up onto the hill to talk to Alfred, and it's just like the sky and everything, and I'm just like, I feel like they're just really, just sitting there with a camera. I did look it up. They do film it in Hungary, near Budapest. There's like a medieval set there, so you might actually recognize, like, even The Witcher, they shot in like Hungary near Budapest or something too. So a lot of like medieval shows are actually like filmed in that area. So, but
I wonder if Vikings was too.
Actually, I looked that up too, and they are mostly filmed in Ireland. Okay. Ireland, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like Kattegat, that's in Dublin, I think, is what I saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, it's beautiful. The music too is freaking beautiful. I'm going to link some things in the description, a couple songs, but I'm going to give a shout out to the guys who do the music, John Loon and Ivor.
Look at this one.
Podolditor? Palidistor?
Paul's daughter? I don't know.
That's probably better. That's
but
probably more correct.
I'm not even sure about that. Ivor? Paul's daughter? I don't know. That's my best guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
But props to you guys. The music is awesome.
I mean, everything, the writers, directors, actors, crew, I mean, they all just, I mean, they make you sell like you're there, and it's just, I mean, everything feeds into the show. It's yes. We've gushed about the show. I mean, it's perfect. Just watch it. Just watch it.
Just watch it. Just watch it. All right. You ready now?
I'm ready now.
Let's talk some spoilers here. So if you have not seen it yet, I would turn this off right now.
Yeah, so go watch The Last Kingdom Season 1. You heard our thoughts about it. Pause this, go watch that, come back and hear what we think. We're going to go kind of episode by episode here, talk about it, and just any other random thoughts we get, that's going to come up too. So,
absolutely.
So, big old spoiler alert.
Big old spoiler alert. All right. So here we go. We're going to kind of go through episode by episode. Each episode we'll probably talk a little bit about some of our favorite moments. What we're going to do is talk about the bro moments, because there are so many bro heartwarming moments in the show. And we just kind of want to identify a few of those that we liked.
I think that's another reason we kind of connected with this show, is because, we're bros, not in like the douchebag way of saying it. No offense to anyone who uses #bro, but like I'm thinking like brother-in, man relationship, just the male bonding, like there's a special, there's a special thing about it, and
there just is.
So, and that's what Uhtred, he always gets like guys that are dedicated to him, and they're just friends, and they're buds, man.
Exactly. So here we go. We're starting in the year 866. What a year.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday.
I know. And there's a young boy named Osbert, 10-year-old boy, living in Bebbanburg. And his dad is the alderman of Bebbanburg, and his name is actually Uhtred. And Osbert also has an older brother named Uhtred. Well, while they're all chilling, in Bebbanburg, guess who's coming to shore? A group of Vikings, a group of Danes, led by a man named Ragnar the Fearless. Now, Ragnar the Fearless becomes a pretty cool character in this show. He's the leader of this group of Danes that come to Bebbanburg, and the Elderman Uhtred sends his other son Uhtred to go and check it out. But he tells him, don't interact with them. Just go see how many there are. Get back here, so they can kind of hatch a plan out. So the son goes. He's watching them from the shore on their boats. And he goes and taunts them. He yells at them to get out, calls them names.
Ragnar's like, let's go kick his ass.
Yeah. Ragnar just laughs and he's like, pull over there. Let's go say hi to this guy. And so it's cool because the next thing they do is they just show a horse with this hooded guy riding up to the gates of Bebbanburg. And they lock up and they've got their archers out and the Elderman Uhtred goes to the top of the gate, and Ragnar the Fearless whips his hood down and then pulls out Uhtred's head.
It's not on his body.
It's not on his body.
Not even
close. Not even close.
That's a message. He throws it down, and he's like, we're coming for you, man.
Yes.
So then they're all like, we got to get ready to go out and fight. Uhtred. And you met Osbert, who is, we were talking about Uhtred before. Osbert at this point is going to be Uhtred because his brother Uhtred just died.
Yes, he becomes Uhtred in just a few minutes in the episode, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, his priest Biaka, another great dude, another great character, goes and baptizes Uhtred. His rationale is, if he gets to heaven, and his name's Osbert, but you're calling him Uhtred, they're going to get confused. The paperwork's not going to match. And he's like, I got to get this paperwork straightened out. I got to get him baptized. So he goes and baptizes Osbert, and he's holding him down. He almost drowns him, pulls him up, and everyone's happy, and they're all clapping. And
now we have Uhtred.
Now we got Uhtred. And one of the things I like about this scene is, it really shows I think this is where the show is trying to show you that Uhtred, formerly Osbert, this is where his connection to Bebbanburg sort of shows through, or Bebbanburg. When I was listening to the audiobook for The Last Kingdom, that half of this season is based on, they don't really emphasize this scene in the book. They just say he got it, had the water,
right,
and everything. But in the show, he comes up and everyone's applauding, they're happy, they're smiling at him. It's a big deal for all of them. For someone in their community to get baptized, Yeah. And that's what you see on Uhtred's face. He's proud, he's happy, he's part of the community. But it wasn't really mentioned in the show and the book. In the book, though, Uhtred, he goes on a lot of different Viking adventures well before what we'll talk about later, Ragnar's death even happens. And but during that time when they're fighting Saxons and things, he has a lot of conflict in his head because every now and then he'll hear ooh, that's your mother's brother. Ooh, that's the one blacksmith from your old town and things so you see that he's always been kind of attached to Bebbanburg, even though he's left there.
Yep.
But this is the part in the show where they're look, this is his connection there, because you even hear in the show that Uhtred, he's sad when his dad later dies, but it's he even says his dad was always kind of mean to him. His dad is kind of doesn't really care about him. He's like, well, now you have to be Uhtred, so my name can keep going on, because that's what everyone cared about back then was their legacy was having sons, so their names would live on. And so I thought that was a pretty cool scene.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was pretty well done. It also kind of emphasizes the connection between Father Biaka, the one who baptizes him, and Uhtred, a connection that's going to last throughout the whole show.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows that Biaka was kind of the mentor to Uhtred in his early life. So they meant a pretty good deal to each other. The Elderman Uhtred, young Uhtred's father, decides they need to go to war. They got to go battle these Danes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says to keep Uhtred home in Bebbanburg to protect him, young Uhtred, and he leaves his the Elderman's brother there to watch over him.
Aelfric.
Yeah.
Uhtred's uncle, his evil uncle now.
Uncle. Yes. And Aelfric knows that if he, something happens to the old Uhtred and the young Uhtred, then I guess that would make Aelfric the rightful
Elderman
to Bebbanburg.
He's kind of hoping they both die.
Yeah. So he kind of knows Uhtred's character, and he knows that young Uhtred's going to go, even though he was told not to go to the battle, that this 10-year-old boy, his character, he's just going to suit up and go, even if he's told not to. And that's what he does. And he pretty much the uncle tells somebody to make sure he doesn't come back.
Yeah.
So
Scallion is I think the guy's name.
Yeah.
The assassin.
Yeah. So he said, make sure he doesn't come back. And so he goes. The battle scene was freaking awesome. It's our first battle scene in the show of many. And when they show up, you have the three kings have united to try to take on these Danes.
I think the other kings were Alar and Ecbert.
Yeah.
I think were the kings. And I can't remember where they were from, but they're actually two kings that were from
King
Vikings.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were real kings, real historical times during this time period.
Yes.
But they're teaming up with Uhtred to go fight the Danes right now to drive them off the land. And they get down there, and it's such a cool scene because all the Saxons are running down like, "Rah, we're ready," and they all get there, and the Danes are just.
They start whispering this super creepy thing, and it like throws off the Saxons. All kind of stop and are like, "What's going on?" And then Elderman Uhtred's like, keep moving forward. And then as like they're about to start, they're going to start their charge. The Saxons, they call a shield wall.
The Danes get a shield wall going.
Called a shield wall, which we've seen in both Vikings and The Last Kingdom, is like battle strategy that is utilized by the Danes and the Vikings that definitely the Saxons are just not prepared for. So basically what it is a line of the Danes will grab their shield to put like one row on the ground. They'll put another group of guys will get behind them, and they'll put a shield on top of theirs. And then they'll have another group come in and put a shield, like another shield on top. So it's just
like
a huge,
45 on top.
Yeah, like 45-degree on top. So it's just this huge like wall, and they're all just bracing, and they're all just. And what's cool about it is they're all a unit. They're a team. So they're all part of this wall, and they charge. The Saxons charge, and they're trying to penetrate it. And the Danes are just chill. They're just waiting. Nobody's getting through. They're stabbing through it, but they get flanked. Right?
Who, the Saxons?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And then I think Ubba just yells. This Ubba is the chieftain of the Danes, and so he is. So he's kind of the big leader of the Danes. He's a cool character, cool Viking, and he's behind the shield wall, and he just says "ease." And all of a sudden, all the Danes, while they're being charged by the Saxons, just kind of start taking small steps backwards. When they started pushing back, the Saxons had like reserves up on the hill. They weren't sending them all at once. And so when they started going back, all the reserves were like, "Oh, they're retreating. We're winning." And so they start coming in. And Elderman Uhtred, who led the first charge, looks back and sees the rest of the reserves coming, and he knows that they're screwed right now. He knows they're losing the battle right now, and he's like, no! And now all the Saxon troops have come. And then the flank comes.
Yeah, they sort of like cave in, like you're pushing in the center of a Play-Doh, and it just wraps around them. And
yeah, they had men in the trenches outside, like down a hill. And they had them run up.
Ragnar the Younger, I think, led a group down then.
So then they were surrounded. The Saxons were surrounded by Danes, 2 shield walls, and then they're just toast.
They're toast. Uhtred's father, Uhtred, the Elderman, he breaks through. He starts cutting down guys. He's like, "Come on!" And then all of a sudden, Ragnar the Fearless, one of the Viking leaders, just stabs him right in the neck. And I mean,
it was brutal. So there's another thing about the show. I'm not going to say it's the most gory show in the world. It's certainly not the most gory. I'm not going to say it's I'm not going to say it's PG for sure, because it does show a lot of the stuff. It's no Braveheart. It's no Game of Thrones as far as the gore and that, but it does show people getting stabbed. It shows some pretty gross things. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely an adult show. As far as the violence, and I mean, that all kind of helps sell it though. But I mean, there is a lot of moments though where they'll go to cut someone down or something, and you won't see, how gruesome it is or something. It's like they'll show like a flash of blood or something, but it's not really too gross. But I mean, at that point, a sword goes through a guy's neck.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
it's not pretty.
I think I noticed, like, you and I are used to watching stuff like that.
Mm.
My girlfriend is not. So when she saw it, she was kind of that was a lot for her. And I remember when I watched it, I didn't have that reaction. I was just like, oh, cool. This is.
Yeah, I was just like, oh yeah. He went through there.
Like,
I mean, you wince for a second, but then you're fine. Yeah, I was watching this through, and my girlfriend was just like, the first few episodes, she was just like complaining. She's like, how can you watch this? It's so bad, or like, oh, and I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna go to another room and watch it then. And she's like, no, I won't say anything.
Yeah.
Then she was grunting. She's like, and I'm like, I'm going to another room to watch this then. She's like, no, I won't say anything. And it was just every now and then, just like, it's like, all right, that's it. I'm not watching this with you anymore. And it's not for everyone because of the violence, but I think if you're someone that isn't used to violence in shows, you'll think that this is all the show is about, because there is a lot of that. But it's not really all the show's about, at least not for me anyway. I mean, I love the violence. I love the battles, the fights. That's a big, part of why I like the show. But to me, it's all grounded in the characters and the plots and, the mystery of who's that group of people, or, something like that. So this whole scene is really just showing you the Danes are some badass warriors right now. Saxons, they ain't shit. And I mean, this is where, if you actually historically, the Danes were, just kicking the crap out of, the Saxon kingdom. They were taking land, setting up shop. They're like, hey, this is ours now, and I mean, that's really the point of this, is to just show, like, they're formidable, and they're ruthless, they're relentless, but they're smart too, because they did occupy a ton of England. England is constantly, the Saxons are constantly, conceding territory, making treaties with the Danes. And the reason the show's called The Last Kingdom is because Wessex becomes the last kingdom. That's all that the Danes haven't conquered yet. So, I mean, that's really what this is doing here. So, if you're someone that isn't in the battle shows and movies, like we are, maybe you'll get turned off, but I think you should stick through.
I do. My girlfriend did, and she is hooked. She doesn't like that kind of stuff. She's probably the last person that would like that kind of stuff. And she is hooked, because the writing and the characters are, and the rest of it is just so good. And if you like fighting stuff, it's pretty well done.
And it's very well done.
So here's this pretty awesome battle. And
quick too. By the way, just real quick, is how you were mentioning, it's a big thing in this is how the shield wall is like a big Viking tactic in the show. And first time we watched it, that's what we were excited every time a shield wall came up, because we're like, oh, the shield wall, because we knew it was like a Viking thing. And eventually later on, Uhtred, he brings a shield wall in. He teaches the Saxons how to.
Yeah.
But they kind of make you think that they didn't know that before. But when in the book, the Saxons did know how to make shield walls, but before Uhtred taught them. But that's one difference. But I still think it's cool that they're showing that the Danes are it's like a superior warrior and things like that. And I don't know. Anyway, keep going.
Absolutely.
Keep going.
Yeah. No, it is cool. It's just like I like how it's just a whole different fighting style. Just a whole different strategy that, the Saxons just never saw before.
Mm-hmm.
It's well done. But yeah, so little Uhtred had gone to this battle. He snuck into the battle and he sees his father get killed, and he starts this 10-year-old kid just starts charging these giant Viking dudes, these scary Vikings, and he's just really shows a lot about Uhtred's character even at that age. And this one Viking guy, he cuts him.
Yeah, Ragnar. He goes
so he's going after Ragnar.
Killed his dad.
Yeah, and Ragnar kind of shakes it off.
He's laughing.
And he's like laughing until he gets cut, and then he kind of gets mad, and he takes like the butt end of his axe, and he just boom knocks out Uhtred. Little Uhtred, young Uhtred, is later at this like celebration. This celebration
for the Danes victory party.
Danes, so they're in this like barn thing, and they're just like torturing these Saxons, and it's pretty horrible.
Oh yeah, one of the just having a part. Who didn't like concede to them. I think it's Alar. He's getting tortured. Like he's like chained up, and he's trying to fight the Danes, and they have. It's kind of like cringy to watch at first, but then it's kind of funny too. Is like they have this one girl being like pulled up by a rope and dropped back down. Like there's one point where
and they're just like yay.
Yeah, they're like yay when she's dropping, and the next time they bring her up, they drop her and she's dead, and they're all like oh. Like she didn't make any noise. And then Egbert, I think he switches over to the Danes, and one of the things happens is he still gets to be king. To be controlled, but he's working for the Danes now. Everything he does, he's a puppet for the Danes.
His land really belongs to the Danes, but he gets to be the king. Yeah. Not really the king. They pretty much say he's king of nothing.
Probably keeps his bathtub,
Yeah.
Keeps his his tub to just sink along in, and
So anyway, young Uhtred goes up. He has a talk with like the father of Ragnar the Fearless.
Raven.
He's blind, but he's actually kind of nice to Uhtred in this instance. And they have a discussion, and they're talking about what's going on down there. And he points out Ubba. And he just says to him, never cross Ubba.
Or never fight Ubba.
Never fight Ubba.
Something like that.
That's his advice.
Ubba's a big, blonde Dane dude, and this man, like, he's not like a bodybuilder or anything, but he's a big dude. He's
country strong.
He's country strong, man.
Yeah, he's been like the actor's been like hired to play like big people in other movies. I know he's in Captain Marvel. I think he plays like this alien in Captain Marvel who's just big.
Yeah, one of the blue guys they go on a mission with.
Yeah, and I think they just need like a big actor, and he fits it perfectly. I never would have known it was him, but otherwise, this is kind of the first thing I saw that guy in, and he just absolutely killed his role. He was like this ruthless Viking, but he was also like really funny.
Really funny.
And like his name was Rune Tempty. I think that's how you would pronounce it.
I have no idea.
So sorry if we butcher some of these names.
Some of them are, outside of our, expertise. Yeah. Look it up on IMDb though. We'll try.
So he was Yeah. So anyway, that's just important to remember. He said, no, don't cross him, and not to fight Ubba was his advice to young Uhtred. So anyway, we'll move forward a little bit in the episode. Uhtred is a slave to Ragnar the Fearless, this young boy. But Ragnar the Fearless also has like other young kids around, and Brita is also a slave. Brita is a Saxon girl
who got brought in.
Yeah, who got brought in by Ragnar to be a slave. And then there's another young girl named Brita, who is Ragnar the Fearless's daughter, and
you mean
I'm sorry, Tura.
Yeah, Tura.
Brita's the other slave. Tura is like, can Uhtred play? Can Uhtred go play? And like the older one's like, he's a slave, and like the father's like, he's a slave, you can't play. You shouldn't play with the slaves. The mom's like, as long as he finishes his chores, and and
does all the slave work for the day.
So they go out and they're playing out in the woods, and this like bully comes up with his guys. His name is Sven, and he tries. Ragnar takes off with Brita, and Tura's like stuck in a tree, and then because she was up in the tree when they were playing. Anyway, they get her down. They have Tura trapped, and he tries to he rips her shirt off.
Half her shirt down. They're just little kids, so
they're kids.
They can't really do anything. But it's not good to be stripping down little naked girls. And Sven.
So while they're like running, come on, Sven. And Sven's like a little bit older too. It looks like, but so while Uhtred's running away, he's like, Tura. He realizes that he left her behind, and he goes back and he just tackles Sven. And then they kind of cut scene. We don't really see what happens, but they cut to Uhtred with like a black eye, and he's getting like yelled at by his owner Ragnar.
Yeah.
And like the other owners.
They're like, you're a slave. You're getting in fights.
Yeah. Yeah. And like they're like, who started the fight? And at first Ragnar's like being quiet. You mean Uhtred? Uhtred, is being quiet, and Tura's finally speaks up, and she's like, no, like Uhtred protected me, like, and then they kind of tell the story, and the next thing you know, Ragnar the Fearless is going to confront that kid.
And he's the son of Ragnar's shipbuilder, Kjartan.
Yes.
Who was, with him at the beginning of the show when they first captured attacked Bevember and all that. And he's there, and Ragnar comes up, and he's like, you need to give me your son right now. And Kjartan's like, I've already punished him. You don't need to do anything. He's like, I'm going to have words with your kid. Get him out, or we're going to make the square, which is another.
Yeah, so making the square is pretty much like a challenge, one-on-one battle, like to the death.
Yeah. And they actually explain in the book too. Apparently that phrase, make the square, is like they actually lay down sticks on the ground to make like a square to fight in. Like in the book, when Ragnar's coming up to Kjartan, he has sticks on his horse, and Uhtred's like confused. He's like, what's the sticks for? And he's like, because Ragnar's going there with the full intention of, he might have to kill someone to defend his, daughter's honor. But anyway, Sven, Kjartan's son, the guy who's stripped down Ragnar's daughter, comes out, and Ragnar's like, you looked upon my daughter's nakedness.
Yes.
And he's like, just half naked, Lord.
Yeah.
And Ragnar's like, Uhtred, is this true? Utred's like, yeah, just half naked.
Just half.
Ragnar's like, then I will only take one of your eyes. And just bam, it's
because he's full of mercy.
He's so merciful.
He's just so
merciful.
He's a nice dude. So I'll just take one eye.
One of a kid's eyes.
Just one.
And so just thumps out his eye.
It's like justice served. Anyway, and he banishes them off the land, Kjartan and his son, and he banishes them. But yeah, that was so there, that moment, that whole story there, that's how Uhtred gains the trust of Ragnar the Fearless.
He goes from a slave to a surrogate son.
Sort of. It's kind of in the process, but he finally has gained a lot of respect for him, and for saving his daughter from what could have been way worse, right? And that happens to be one of the very cool moments in the show. They're around the fire, and they're just talking.
Ragnar's elder son, Ragnar the younger, they're there, and
they're just talking. Uhtred's asking about what it's like, where they come from, and they kind of explain why they wanted to come to England, for the land, the fertile land, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Ragnar has a Mjolnir. I'm wearing mine today, like a little Mjolnir necklace. Most of them. So if you like Thor, you might like this. It might be a bit of, but the gods Thor, Odin, that you see like in the Marvel movies, what they're all based off of. They're the gods, the Norse gods of all the Viking people, like Denmark, Iceland, Norway. They all worship the
Norse mythology, right?
Yeah.
This time they would worship, yeah.
So he's holding, a Mjolnir necklace in his hand, and he's getting Uhtred to, try and open up his hand, and he gives him this, this Mjolnir necklace, which is, a sign of Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, and he puts it on, and he tells him, you made me very proud today, and just like. Oh man! When we first time we both saw that, we were just like, man, what it like? Because when you like someone in this show, it's because they're always like they do the right thing. They might be like mean or violent or something, but they always like give out justice. They always give respect to who it's due.
Yeah,
and it was just so satisfying to get that like respect and recognition to Uhtred. For helping out his daughter, and that's my best bro moment from the show, right there.
Mine hasn't. I think the one I picked hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
By the way, we're still in the first episode. Look how much stuff has happened, and we're not even done yet.
We're not even done.
Kjartan, after he gets kicked off the land, he goes to Bebbanburg and informs Uhtred's uncle that Uhtred's still alive. So Elfric's like, oh, so there's a chance this guy, because Elfric, I think he thought he was dead from that battle.
Yeah, and he's been ruling Bebbanburg.
He's been ruling Bebbanburg because he thought Uhtred was dead, and so he needs to figure out a way to get Uhtred back and kill him. So he offers to buy him. They go and they have a little meeting, meeting to he's going to try to buy Uhtred. Mm-hmm. And this is where I think my bro moment came in. So they're kind of in the woods. You got your Danes, Ubba, even the chieftain Ubba came to this meeting. And then you've got the Saxons with
Elfric,
and Biaka comes, the priest. And Biaka is like, do you mind if I go and have a few words with him real quick? And so Biaka, in the middle of both sides, Biaka just has a moment to talk to Uhtred real quick, and just warn him. And he just says to him if you go back, Biaka will, or Elfric will kill you. Your uncle will kill you. So he's pretty much like, you need to escape. Mm-hmm. And that's for me, that's a bro moment in the show because it exemplifies the relationship that they have, that Biaka, the love for Uhtred that he has. He pretty much helped raise Uhtred from, till he was 10.
Yeah, he's a real mentor for him.
He was a real mentor. And he was taking a huge risk by, saying something to him. On both sides, the Danes were skeptical of it, and Elfric was skeptical of it. Mm-hmm. So Biaka put himself on the line just to tell Uhtred, warn Uhtred. So to me, that was a cool moment. And then they start bartering for it, and is Ubba who barters, isn't it?
Yeah, Ubba is he's trying to say, oh, we'll give you, if you give us this much silver, you can have the kid, or if we have your land, you can have the kid. And they're going back and forth, and eventually Ragnar comes up to Ubba, whispers something in Ubba's ear. We don't hear what it is,
Yeah.
But Ubba's like basically says like some outlandish number for Uhtred that like no way they would give that much silver for a kid.
Yeah.
So then they end up not getting Uhtred, and they're riding back,
and
Ragnar's like, "You are mine now, and you're a Dane now." And then they're
and as soon as he says this, he's like, "This is another bro moment, by the way. Yeah. I consider," and he's like, "That means you're a son to me now." And then the next thing he does is he tosses him into this like creek. They're going over a bridge, and he just tosses him off the horse into the creek.
Midwinter in England.
Yeah, and I just thought it's cool just because like that's probably what he'd do to his own son.
Yeah,
like just messing around
and
way,
man.
Yeah.
And the next time Uhtred gets out of the water, he's just Alexander Draymond. Just
the ladies love this part.
Ripped. Oh yeah. When I listen to like another podcast, like this is their like seller point of the show for women is when Uhtred's just getting out of the water, abs going, hair down wet.
Yeah. He's so. By the way, years have passed, so he's older now.
Yeah.
In the book, Alexander Draymond,
like 15 or 16 around this time period.
No, yeah. He looks like he's like late 20s, early 30s.
He's probably about our age at this point.
Yeah, at least. So he comes out of the water, and he comes out, and he's wearing Dane attire, and it just shows him interacting with the family. He's respected as a family. What's that? Yeah.
I was just gonna say Tyra's like about to get married, so they're like setting up for a wedding, and you can just see everyone is really respectful of Uhtred at this point, and and then Ragnar pulls him aside and says, "Hey, why don't you go mess around with your adopted sister?" And he's like, "Alrighty."
I don't know if Brita. I don't think Brita was adopted though.
Yeah, and the thing is too in the book,
a slave, right?
Yeah. In the book too, Brita wasn't picked up at the same time as Uhtred either. No, it was so like after Uhtred got picked up, then they went back to the barn. All that stuff happened, but then it goes through and it's like a year by year thing, and they actually break down like Ubba, Ivar, and Ragnar. They're conquering like all these parts of England, and like Uhtred seeing this, he's learning to fight during this time period. And along the way, one of the villages they raid. Brita comes out, and she's like Uhtred's age, like 13 or something. And then that's when they meet in there. So he's already like proven himself to Ragnar at this point. He's already had that moment with him, and now there's Brita, and she gets picked up, and she like befriends Ravin, who's blind, and like helps him see, and they meet Guthrum, and all that. So it's not as weird in the book when you start hearing that they're hooking up, but yeah, because in this one they make it seem like they were kind of brought up like his brother and sister, just in this house the whole time, but they were really out and about. Uhtred was in 13 during this time too, was like, all right, you got a year or two before you're married and having kids, So like at the end of the first book, Uhtred is 16, like about to fight, Ubba at the end of the first book. Like that's where that ends Anyway, he rides out, and he easily seduces Brita, but I mean when you're Uhtred, I don't think
it's just really, not even. No one stands a chance. Yeah. So he just. So they're doing their thing, and while they're there that night, they're kind of laying and talking, and then they hear voices, and they hear people coming, and they look, and it's Kiatan's men, the guy that Ragnar the Fearless had kicked off the land, coming with torches and weapons. Yeah, with Sven. And basically everybody's sleeping. I think it's the night before the wedding.
Yeah.
And everyone's sleeping in like the city. They all sleep in like the same barn style house. And Uhtred and Brita weren't there because they were off goofing off. And basically they bar the doors. these bad men barred the doors and set fire to the house.
Yeah, so Kjartan, they're burning down Ragnar's house with his family locked in. When they see the blaze going, then they're running to try and save everyone. Uhtred and Brita, they're coming to running in to try and save everyone. But then they hide because Kjartan's got a ton of men, and they see that he's actually got men from Bevember. So Elfric is working with the Danes, or at least working with Kjartan, and they burn down the place. They don't want to die, a dishonorable death. That's another big thing in the show is, dying with, a weapon in your hand, dying as a warrior. And that's how you get to Valhalla, or their afterlife, where you're feasting in a hall and you're fighting on all day. You're having sex all day. That's their afterlife. Viking afterlife, man. Sounds really fun. And so, you definitely want to get there. So you want to die with a sword in your hand. And Ragnar has to kill his family so they don't burn to death or, get captured or something. And he decides to go out charging like a badass. And he's on fire, swinging away.
He's swinging. He's holding people off. And
he killed a couple of dudes.
Yeah.
They didn't even bring him down. He died from
amazing. You and I watching this, we're freaking out right now.
Yes.
We're like, our jaws are on the floor. I mean, great moment. Great moment.
That's one of
really sad because, so he obviously dies, and without his sword, I think.
No, he died with it. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it fell. I thought it was in the ground and he fell away from it.
No, he had it. Yeah. I mean, he might have fell.
Because I'm pretty sure
I think it still counts.
You think that counts?
I think it did. I think it counted. It was pretty sweet. Either way, really sweet. It's probably one of my favorite moments from the thing. Because like you said, we were both just freaking out when he was coming out. Just because he puts on his helmet and everything before he comes out, and he's just and just swinging away, killing guys. And
it was awesome. Uhtred witnessed it. He hides out, kind of sees the wreckage the next morning, and he sees the
assassin from Elfric, his evil uncle, Scallion.
Yeah.
Sees
him. What's he say? He's like, I need to kill someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he goes in and he
sneaks
in all stealth-like, and he basically kills that guy. And while he's there, he never sees Tira, who actually survived the fire,
she's captured by
Sven. That's the kid who tried to do stuff to her earlier in the show, and now he's older. Yeah, and
now he's grown up and he's saying all the terrible, and he's got one eye now too, because he lost his eyes, got a blindfold on him. He captures her and he basically tells her he's going to do terrible, nasty things to her, and you just feel bad. But Uhtred never saw her. He never knew she was alive.
Yeah.
And so then, after Kjartan's men leave, they know where Ragnar had all of his silver hidden, which is, most of the wealth. You always hear the Danes,
so they were looking for his wealth.
And silver.
Vikings, they couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And, so Uhtred knows where that is.
Yeah, they get it, and they decide, now we have to go out and get someone else. But before they do that,
the show comes to an awesome cap of the first episode, and they go back to Bevember. Remember in the beginning when Ragnar the Fearless rode up on a horse? All of a sudden, there's another horse riding up to Bevember. This time, it's Elfric who comes out to look over the top of the wall. And there's a man in the hood with a hood on, and whips off the hood. It's our Uhtred. And he pulls out the head, just like Ragnar the Fearless pulled out the head of Uhtred's older brother. He pulls out the head of Elfric's right-hand man. And he says, Bevember is mine.
Yeah. Bevember is mine.
And he tosses it. And Elfric is just like, let's go get him. And Uhtred's just booking it. So now they're trying to chase him down. Elfrich wants him dead, and there's our first episode. Holy moly! Look how much happened in that episode.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to have to cut it down.
We're going to have to cut it down for the next few episodes.
Or we're going to be here for 8 hours.
We're going to be here all, yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, it's very dense, but that one, it's very important, for the setup of everything.
All those setups, because that's kind of, honestly, all through all the seasons, those points from this first episode, those become some of the major plot points.
Yes.
So it's really important to understand what happened in the first episode, and understand why Uhtred wants Bebbanburg, why Uhtred wants revenge against Kiatin. Things that he'll be trying later on.
Yeah, exactly. And it really just sets up, like I said before, before we got into the spoiler talk, even is you see that he still has this connection to Bebbanburg, which is Saxon, but he's also a Dane now. You didn't get to see everything from the book, but I mean, you still get it. You still get it from how he acts, how he talks, the way he dresses, how he carries himself, that he's a Dane,
Right.
And so,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that really hooked us in, and we were like, let's keep going. And actually, the next one was one of my favorite episodes out of the whole season. And this is the one that, for me, this one for me is like what got me like completely hooked into the show. I mean, it starts out with them on the run.
Yeah. Yep.
They're on the run.
Good funny moments in this one, I will say right now. We'll get to them, but
this is where all the humor comes through. Yeah. This is where like you finally get to see like the real tone of the show. It's humor, it's dark, it's oh man, this is easily one of my favorite of the whole season.
We'll try to spark note this one a little bit more, but just to give a quick setup of the episode, Uhtred breeder on the run from Elfrich's men, and they are trying to figure out what to do. Uhtred wants to go and talk to Ubba. They find out from this village, there was like one survivor of this village that had been attacked by Danes, and they find out from this villager that they're looking for, the Vikings are looking for somebody named Uhtred because a Saxon slave burned his master's home, they said. So basically, Elfrich and Kiatin came up with a story to spread around that it was Uhtred who burned the home.
Yeah.
So that's why Uhtred's trying to figure out what to do. He thinks if he goes to Ubba and explains the story rationally, Ubba will understand. Breeda's like, he's going to kill you. And so that's what they decide to do because they don't really have any other choice. They go trying to find Ubba, and that's where we come to one of the funny scenes in the show.
I love that scene.
So real quick, Ubba's like super into the gods, super into messages from the gods, and he has a priest, a
seer, I think is what they're called.
A seer, yeah, for
basically like they're supposed to be
he
like
advises him.
Yeah, they're like connections to the gods. They read ruins and they read things that they interpret messages that they say are from the gods, like Odin and Thor and everything. And so Ubba really relies on his guy's story.
Yeah,
which
story.
Is the
Uhtred knows this, and he's like, well, we can kind of get him for collateral. So I can get him. We kidnap Story. I'll go in and talk to Ubba. If he tries to kill me, I'll be like, we got Story. We'll kill him if you kill me. And Ubba, he knows Ubba will not stand for that. So they find a way to get Story, and then they go in, and Uhtred goes in to confront Ubba.
Yeah, so Ubba's at this. Ubba and Guthrum, who are two of the like Viking chieftains slash.
So Ubba's the big chieftain. Ubba's like the head of everything. Guthrum's like right below him, like same level I think as Ragnar the Fearless was.
Yeah, I think they're, what are they called? Something like that.
Earl.
Yeah,
Earl Ragnar and
Earl Ragnar. Yeah, that's it.
Earl.
I think they're Earls. So like Ubba's like above them because of how tough he is, I think. But so they sack this village. Uhtred sneaks in. They kidnap Story. Breda takes Story back. Uhtred comes in to Guthrum and Ubba, they've tortured these priests.
Cool Vikings, by the way. Yeah, they've tortured priests. The King Egbert.
King Edmund, actually.
Edmund is is on the.
He's been he's on a cross.
On the cross.
He's been getting tortured and stuff. They cut him down, and he starts, telling them something about God, because they're Christian, and
Christian, and the
they
Danes
see a painting,
and so because the Danes are, polytheistic, they don't rule out that the other god doesn't exist. They don't say that, they think, oh, maybe their god is there and our gods are here,
and we have the MCU, gods in the DC EU,
whereas the Saxons are just like all your gods aren't real. So they're so they're questioning, and they're actually curious about their god, this god that the Saxons believe in. They're asking questions about him. They want to know more about him, and they tell the story.
Saint Sebastian. Ubba sees a painting in the church where they've been, tormenting the priests and King Edmund. Bunch of arrows. They ask King Edmund,
this is one of the great moments of the show. Great moment.
What's tell me the story. King Edmund's like, oh, it's Saint Sebastian. He was saved by God. Ubba's like, oh, he was, and you can tell they're interested, and so he starts. Wow. Yeah, he tells them a story about how Saint Sebastian was a Roman guy who repented, from their the Mars and Jupiter, all the gods of Rome, and converted to Christianity, and he was killed for it. He was shot with arrows, but because he praised God, he wasn't killed, and
he didn't die.
Yeah, so that's how.
So Ubba's like, so he tells him that part, and Ubba's like, so he lived. And Edmund's like, well, temporarily, he got clubbed to death after that. And then so Ubba's like, so he died.
He's like, well, he lived forever in heaven. And he's like, sounds like he died.
Sounds like he died. And so Ubba has this great idea. Well, let's do an experiment. He's like, I want to see if your God is going to save you.
Yeah, because King Edmund, he's like, I'll give you the kingdom, but you both have to get baptized.
Yes, you have to be baptized. Yeah,
and they look at,
and that's why they were
Uhtred.
Curious about it. And then so Ubba's like, okay, so let's make this deal. We'll do the arrows, and if you live, we'll be baptized.
we'll be washed, is what they say.
Or we'll be washed. Yes. So Uhtred came in, right?
When they both say the baptized, when the king, he's like, both need baptized. They both look at Uhtred, who was coming.
Uhtred had come in at this point, and Ubba recognized Uhtred and was like, I will deal with you in a minute. Let me deal with this king first. So they both turn and look at Uhtred when Edmund says baptism, they have no idea what it means.
Yeah,
and they wash you.
So we will be washed if we shoot you with arrows and you live. And he's like, oh, never mind. You don't have to get baptized.
Edmund's totally he totally bails on it. He's like, you know what? You guys can just have it. You don't have to be baptized. And they're like, no. Let's see if your God will save you. And then so they're lining up to shoot. I love this.
And King Edmund's like, shoot.
Yeah. And then Ubba's just tells him to stand down. He's puts his hand down, and he's like, I tell them to shoot. And then there's a pause. Shoot.
He just gets
and then here it comes.
Arrows.
Yeah. And he's just riddled with arrows. Yeah. And then what happens next, Steve?
Ubba comes over, and he's like, will the arrows suffice, or will we need to be clubbed now? And the king was just like, ugh, and he just dies. I mean, that whole scene for me was the best moment, or one of the best moments of the show, because again, this whole episode is just so dense. I mean, like it's brutal, it's funny, it's got it all. But anyway, Uhtred, after this happens, he tells them about Story. He tells them how he didn't kill Ragnar and everyone. They don't believe him though, but because he has Story, he gets to escape. He runs out. Him and Brita are like, well, now none of the Danes are going to believe us, so let's go to the Saxons.
Well, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before they do that, another hilarious part of the show is when Uhtred gets back and explains what happened to Brita. He looks over, is like, "Where's Story?" And they look over. Story is naked on a horse,
just a bare ass on a horse right now. Is all like you just.
And there's a tree branch sticking out of his butt.
There's a branch in his ass. That's why he had to be naked.
Yeah. And so they're going to send Story back. And they do. And like they slap the horse, and you just hear it, like every time the horse gallops, you just hear Story go, oh, oh, oh.
Oh my God.
And like, this is where like it's just good humor. And you don't find it as much in shows like when we started watching Vikings. The first season of Vikings wasn't super funny. It was pretty serious all the time,
Yeah.
So it's just kind of cool about Last Kingdom can be super serious, but then you have moments like that where you just throw a little humor in. I'm not saying the show's a comedy, but like it does make you laugh sometimes.
It does, and I thought it was really. It's so like witty and quick. Like it doesn't have to like sit on things and say, oh look at, like it's funny. They slap him and he rides off. Like, oh man.
So great moment in episode 2.
Yeah. Anyway, after that, they're like, oh, we need to go to the Saxons. Then we'll try and go to Wessex, which is the last kingdom. Try and see if I'll say I'm an Elderman. They should help me get Bebbanburg, and then we should all be good. We should be in the clear then. So that's their plan. Uhtred goes to a blacksmith. He gets a sweet-ass sword made. Meanwhile, some men, I forget if they're from Elfric or from the Danes, they come to kill them in town, and he gets to make his sword sing. So make it sing.
Yeah. So he goes to the blacksmith, and blacksmith's this cool dude. They're talking. Uhtred wants his what do you call that? What he has?
It's like amber. It's like a It's the thing from Jurassic Park that the mosquitoes resin or amber or something.
Exactly. Yeah. It's anyway, he has that. It's like an emblem for. It's like a amulet for him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Can you put this into the sword, like on the hilt of the sword?" And the blacksmith's like, yeah. Shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, so then, they hang out there for a little while, and when Uhtred goes back to get the sword, it was like a super cool moment. And he's like, he takes the sword, his beautiful sword. It's like everything Uhtred could have wanted, and he gives him the guys, like we said, 8.
Yeah.
8 pieces of silver.
Uhtred's like, she's worth 10.
Like, she's worth 10. And Uhtred gives him 10.
Yeah.
And it's just cool, because he didn't have to do that. So that was a cool bro. To me, that was a cool bro moment.
Yeah, I agree. That was definitely a cool bro moment. And then that's when the guys and hey, I heard people asking about you. Uhtred runs and he's like, make her sing, which means use her, make her swing it around. And Uhtred just kicks some guy's ass. Brita kicks some ass. I mean, it's great.
Brita, by the way, we learned in this episode, Brita's really good at throwing axes.
Yeah.
She threw a couple axes in people's backs in this one.
She's always saving Uhtred like last minute with a little axe throw. You just see her like a guy is like about to get Uhtred, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, starts falling down, and there's like Brita, like ha ha,
just an axe comes out of nowhere. So at this point in the show, we really like Brita. I think she's a really cool character at this point.
Yeah.
She did a couple funny things. Obviously she's
saying the right things to do.
She's pretty smart. Yeah, she's pretty smart. Uhtred, I think at this point, Uhtred's very rash and very he's smart, but sometimes he lets his emotions decide for him instead of thinking things through at this point.
Like I said, in the book, he's like 15 or 16 at this point. So even if you want to round up and say he's 18 at this time, I mean, like, just think about, like, when you were that age, what things mattered to you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I remember being little cocky shit for a little while, you know, and
sure.
like, and Uhtred's like way more charming than I ever was, so of course he's gonna be. Another, that's a great bro moment. There's a couple other moments too. This is the one where you see like a little bit more sex with him and Brita. This is another thing that my girlfriend was like, oh my god, when it came on.
Just watch Game of Thrones. If you've seen it's never worse than Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's actually a little less than I was actually paying attention this time. I was like, you actually don't see as much as I thought you did when I first saw it.
World, Game of Thrones, it's like way more PG than those.
Yeah. There's one point though where like Uhtred says to Brita, "We should hunt tonight."
Yeah.
And my girlfriend just like looks at me like, just like, he's like 18 at this point, like, and then later he's like, "It's our destiny to hump."
Yeah, he does. Oh man.
Oh, right.
So they go to Winchester, Wessex.
Yeah,
that's where like King Alfred lives.
He's not king yet, though.
Oh, he's not. Sorry, my bad. This is where we meet the future King Alfred.
Yeah. Right now he's like humping servants and stuff.
So he's the brother of the current king,
Ethelred. Yeah, he's the king right now.
Yep.
And they go there to try and get the
King Ethelred. For what it's worth, when they show King Ethelred, he seems to have a really good head on his shoulders. He seems like a really good king.
No.
Seems like everybody under him like respects him a lot, and he makes like good decisions. It seems, at least, right?
Yeah.
So when Uhtred gets to Winchester, the guards meet him out front. He looks like a Dane. People are looking at him funny. And here's another cool bro moment for me is when the guards were like going to do something like ready to throw down, and Uhtred's being kind of a cocky guy. And then Biaka
is there, and he's calling him.
Yeah, this is where we meet Leofric too. Leofric is a Saxon soldier, and he becomes an interesting character. We'll get to a little bit later on. You get to like him a lot. At first, though, you're like, "Who's this guy messing with Uhtred?"
But it was a really cool scene between them because he was like, "What are you doing, arsling?" That's what he calls Uhtred.
That's what he calls Uhtred. Even when they befriend each other, he calls him that.
Yeah.
And anyway, right before they go down, they're about to throw down. Father Biaka runs out and somehow recognizes Uhtred.
Mm-hmm.
And they just have a cool moment where like they haven't seen each other in a long time, and they like hug and they look at each other, and I don't know, just the way they looked at each other was like, it's so good to be reunited. So I thought that was a kind of a cool bro moment when Biaka came out.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that moment. It was cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that, though, he vouches for him. They go in. He talks to King Ethelred. He talks to Alfred, who's just like an advisor at this time, and you meet Otta and his son Otta the Younger. Who's a real, bad word that, when we're watching the show.
Young Otta.
I say, because he is just a jerk. You also meet Alfred's wife. What's her name? Aylesworth, that's it. She looks really creepy and stuff. And I kind of hate her. But, like, she's actually, crazy pretty in real life. So it's like... I don't know how that makes me very.
She looks like way older in the show than she does in real life.
Yeah, when I was watching the show, I was like, this is like a 40-year-old, really unhappy woman, definitely not attractive. When I was looking up then every cast member from Instagram, from the Last Kingdom on Instagram, I was like, that's her.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe at first.
So she does a good job.
They make her look pretty like she's meant to be like super unattractive on the show.
Yeah, and just she's supposed to be scowly and
super unlikable.
Yeah.
She also, like, in the Instagram photos, looks like everybody loves her too. Like, the actress, she looks super cool.
Yeah.
But so it's funny when somebody plays someone that's so unlikable, you know, see, like, and then they're always like smiling and happy in their Instagram photos.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just interesting to see, because our only perspective of her has ever been just as that character.
Yeah. And I always hated her when I was watching the show, and now that, like, I've seen her on, like, I don't really think that as much. I still think Otto the Younger. Anytime I see him, I'm just like, oh, I hate you. I hate you. But actually, this time watching season 1 through, I was just kind of like, I don't feel negative towards her really that much. But you also
just annoying sometimes. I mean, because she grows to absolutely hate Uhtred. She hates all pagans.
Yeah. That's another thing we learned too, is that everyone, you know, all the Saxons are very devoutly Christian, like
very strict. They need to pray. They need to go to church.
Very annoying. Yeah. You know, not anything you hear from us when we're talking on the podcast, we're not trying to, you know, make any political, any religious statements or anything, but it's just another theme of this show, though, how Christianity was at the time. You know, it was definitely very power oriented, and that's probably actually what kind of helped settle, you know, and helped unite everyone, was, you know, a common faith, a real organized thing that, you know, did control everyone.
They found a lot of strength in that.
Yeah, but it is still, they still portray it, you know, at times too, as very controlling, kind of hypocritical, as far as, you know, power and wealth and things like that. But that's what you get from everyone here, is they're very religious, but they're also very judgmental of Uhtred when he comes in, because he's a pagan, and he starts offering them advice to try and, you know, win some favor, you know, get his place in Bember back. But they don't really trust him because he was a Dane, and so everyone kind of, you know, agrees and like, all right, we'll go ride out and do your thing, but we're gonna lock you up, and that's where that episode ends. Is, you know, they're all locked up then.
Oh, you kind of, the thing you feel about Alfred, I think, after season 2 is like, you don't like him at first. You think
you mean episode 2?
Episode 2?
Yeah, you said season 2. Sorry.
Episode 2 is you don't like him at first. He kind of seems like a dick, right?
Yeah.
But you also recognize he's a pretty smart dude, you know?
He recognizes
Uhtred could very well be leading them into a trap. So he's going to have him locked up, you know? And it's like, you don't like it, but you also see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So.
And, but it's like you said, though, he does recognize, though, that Uhtred has something to offer to hear, you know. And you learn, too, that Alfred, he writes things down. You know, he pays attention to everything. This is really kind of like another reason he ends up being such a renowned leader.
Because there's a lot of records.
There's a lot of records. He's really, I think, actually, historically, his records are what most people draw from for their accounts on what was happening during this time period.
Yeah.
And,
by the way, we got to give a ton of credit to David Dawson, who plays Alfred.
Oh, absolutely.
The actor. Oh, somebody that can make you not dislike, and then sometimes like, and sometimes root for, sometimes like you hope he gets his butt kicked. So well, this guy just kills it.
Knocks out.
This actor just kills it.
You know what I noticed too is, because we've seen it all. We've seen all 3 seasons, but in this one, Alfred looks so young in this.
Yeah, he does. I think,
which is pretty interesting. I mean, they try to, you know, age everyone.
Yeah, I think they do a pretty good job of it. And again, we talked about it earlier, but a lot of credit to the filmmakers and the cinematography of really making it feel authentic throughout. You really feel like that's what things might have looked like back then. That's like what the kind of things they might have been wearing. Like, it doesn't look like they've showered in a long time. Like even the kings, like even the most like rich people, like it just seemed realistic compared to other shows from that time period that we've seen.
Yeah.
So you want to move into the next episode?
Yeah, I mean, like, just gonna wrap up though. That was definitely that was for me the one that made me sure that I wanted to keep going with the show. I mean, the whole story with Ubba and Guthrum, just you get to see Uhtred kick some butt. By the way, his sword's name in the book is called Serpent Breath. They never say that in the show, but anyone who likes the show, there you go. There's a little fun thing for you. But that one there was, I mean, easily one of my favorite. It had the humor, the fight. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, well done. Super well done.
Yeah. So episode 3 then?
Well, yeah. So basically, oh, by the way, the episode 2 ends with them all kind of cutting Guthrum off, like the army, because of Uhtred's advice. And so that's kind of, but it doesn't show that battle. It just kind of shows that it's about to happen, and it like ends with like King, or he's not king yet. Sorry, I keep saying this. With Alfred, like it shows him like getting on his horse, because even Alfred, who right from the minute we meet him, is frail. He's like small. He's got like a condition where he's like he has discomfort in his stomach. I think I saw that it was probably hemorrhoids.
I think it's more serious. I think he had a more like serious like bowel disorder, because I know I think it's ulcerative colitis or something is where they tell you
they think it was hemorrhoids, but
I don't know. It could be, but I know that one of the things they do though for like a more serious bowel disease, like ulcerative colitis or I think maybe Crohn's disease. I don't know, but they one of the things they do is they recommend a plant-based diet instead of meat. So that was another thing he was doing too, was he wasn't eating meat. It seemed like their rationale for him getting those symptoms was it was eating meat as a sin, and they were trying to get him to be like a saint too. So that's another reason they're like, oh, you have to eat plants and stuff. And so I mean, he's someone that had to like deal with pain. He was sick all the time, but he was still like, a renowned king.
Mm-hmm. All right. So another thing we need to mention is that we get introduced to another character named Ethelwald. Now this is the King Ethelred's son, but when we meet him, we know he's a drunk. He just misbehaves all the time. He's not kingly at all. And basically, Ethelred before the battle told Uttah, the older Uttah, that Alfred should be named king if something happens to him.
Yeah.
And but something does happen to him in that battle. He gets killed. And really cool scene when Uttah the younger goes and tells Ethelwald the son, like, you should go, and before anything happens, you should go tell everybody that your dad told you that you were going to be named king. And so that's what Ethelwald goes and does. And Uttah the older comes out. It's a super cool scene with him. And Ethelwald's like, yeah, I'm supposed to be king. He told me before he died that he wanted me to be king. And Uttah, the older Uttah goes, okay, we'll take your request or your claim into consideration as the Witten. We'll that's all he says. And but like then he goes, says, but everybody else here heard your father bequeath his throne to Alfred. And and then Ethelwald's like, oh, but he's delirious right now. Yeah. He's like, he must have been delirious, and I love this. Uttah goes, on which occasion? super cool.
One of the funny things is too, before Ethelwald like goes there to tell, like, oh, I should be the king, or whatever. He like wakes up from like, some like peasant's hut. He's like drunk, and the girl that he had relations with the night before is like washing her privates in this trough outside, and he just dunks his head in there to like, I guess, to an attempt to like clean up. And it's just, oh my god!
And I
it just
think as he's
sums
walking
up
out, somebody like dumps I think someone dumps like a bucket of what out their window, and it like gets on him, and he just like stops and like looks up. It's just funny, just little things like that. But yeah, so I think this is the episode where Brita has a vision.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to mention another thing I really like about the show real quick too. They do a lot of things in the show that make it seem like it could be supernatural. Like that there could be like the gods could be playing like a role in it, like almost like it's fictional, like supernatural kind of thing. But what I like is the show will do things like that. And I'll give you a couple examples in a second. But there's also like rational, real explanations of why those things could have happened.
Yeah.
So one is Brita's vision. She has a vision. I think she just ate a bunch of mushrooms.
Oh yeah.
And to them, eating the mushroom soup was like a way to have a vision. When we know now, like mushrooms can definitely have some psychedelic effects. Mm-hmm. So that's like one example. Trying to think of, there's more later on in the season.
Yeah, it's. I think you're thinking of the next to last episode where Isolette she cures Alfred's son.
Yeah, well, there's that, and oh no, we did mention it. It's the plant-based thing too. I think they looked at that as like. So later on, you'll meet Isolde, who is sort of a like a Dane, kind of what do you call it, sorceress or something?
Yeah,
that's how they refer to her.
They call her the Night Queen or something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, Alfred was having problems. They were interacting at this point, and she made him this drink that was plant-based. We already talked about this, so that's why I'm saying it. Mm-hmm. And like you already explained, there's a rational explanation where in their minds that might have been like she made a magic potion that cured me. So it's just kind of cool how they do that. Like I don't think there's anything in the show that doesn't have a good explanation of why.
Yeah, they never commit to saying this was a magical thing. Sometimes Viking does, and sometimes they just brush it off. Another show
on the show Vikings. In the show Vikings, sometimes they do weird supernatural things in Vikings, and they don't ever explain it.
Odin just comes down and talks to everyone, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and you're just like, "Oh, yeah, Odin's one of the characters in this episode."
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, but yeah, in this one though, like, there's always like well, maybe this could have happened or something like that.
I'll just give a quick example that happens in a couple seasons later.
Yeah,
I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's like a time where there's another sorceress in the show, and she puts a curse on Uhtred at one point, and Uhtred got sick for a while. But the thing is like people back then are getting sick all the time.
Yeah,
and when Uhtred started feeling better in that episode, in that part of the show, it was like after he finally got to where he needed to be, and was like getting fluids and eating food. Yeah, and he started feeling better.
He was wounded too before he got
sick. And he was also
sick.
Wounded. Yeah.
So he could have had like infection response to that.
Yeah. But in their heads, it was because they did something to stop the curse.
Yeah.
Even though it was all kind of coincidental.
Yeah.
The timing. So it's just cool how they do that. But anyway,
absolutely.
We'll get back to episode 3.
Yeah. So like you said, King Ethelred, and he dies. Aethelwald, he gets turned down. He's actually supposed to go to like a priesthood to become a priest or something. They want him to go there, so he's out of the way. He's not, vying for the throne and causing a trouble. Oh, one of the parts I like, when Otto the Elder brings him in, intimidates him and says, "Hey, this is where you're going. You're not sticking around here." And then Ethelwald is even like kind of joking at this time, but then Leofric is like, "Should I make him dumb, Lord?" And he's like, "Please do," and he knocks him out. Like that's how he phrased, like, "Should I knock him out? Should I make him dumb now, Lord?" So, I mean, it's
that's also good.
So then, Uhtred's out now. Him and Brita are out. He
gets gifted. So Alfred actually does gift him with like Saxon chainmail. I think.
Yeah, he never wears it, but
he never wears it.
In the book, he does. The book he does, but he only wears his fur.
So Alfred knows a couple things about Uhtred. One, he knows Uhtred has a lot of potential to benefit Alfred and his causes. He also knows Uhtred is it's kind of a gamble to work with Uhtred a little bit because he's not sure if he can trust Uhtred because of Uhtred's Dane past. And also he recognizes that Uhtred does have a claim to land.
Yeah. And that Uhtred might be just trying to use them to get his land and not really care about their end.
So Alfred, the smart guy that he is, he tells Uhtred that, I'll give you some land in Wessex, but you have to marry for it.
Yeah.
And so Alfred picks a wife. Uhtred eventually agrees to this because he thinks this is a step toward Bebbanburg.
Yeah. He swears a year's service too.
And he swears a year's service. He gives him his word. And in between this, they show a super awesome scene where Uhtred is training the Saxon soldiers in the ways, the fighting style of Danes with a shield wall.
Mm-hmm.
And they show Uhtred explaining how to do the shield wall. And they practice. And there's the one part where Uhtred's like explaining it, and he like has them run through the shield wall, but he's in front of them all. And they have like the one side, and then Leofric is in charge of the other side that they're going to test it with. And Uhtred's just done his full speech explaining everything, how it works. And
all the men did it perfectly.
Yeah, the men did it perfectly. They got an awesome shield wall, and Uhtred turns to face the other guys, and Leofric is like, "Oh, very nice. Get him!" And they
he's like, "Kill the bastards!
Kill the bastards!"
They just have wooden swords, but it's a great scene.
Yeah, and so then they kind of zoom in on this hooded figure on a horse up on the hill while this is going on, while watching them train. And we don't know who this is yet. We don't know who this is. And then Brita goes out to the woods, and she hears footsteps, and you just hear a voice saying, "Are you Brita?" And then it kind of cuts there. And we don't know who this is. It was actually, when I rewatched it, it was kind of anticlimactic how we found out, too. Because Uhtred went in to find Brita later, and Brita was just like, "Hey, Ragnar the Younger came back."
Yeah.
And I saw him in the woods.
It was like that in the book, though, too. Actually, Uhtred didn't even have as much interaction with Ragnar the Younger as he did in the show. I think he saw him like once, but most of the time, actually, Ragnar the Younger was actually raiding in Ireland. They did say he went away to Ireland. That's why he wasn't, at the place. But he actually saw him even less than he did.
Oh, okay. Because that's one thing I love about the show is his relationship with Ragnar.
Yeah, no, I do too.
And
actually,
so
Ragnar too, from the book, had another son.
Oh yeah.
Had another son who's Uhtred's age, but he was sick all the time. But him and Uhtred would always play. Him, Uhtred, and Tyra, yeah. Tira? I don't know.
I think they say Tura, almost.
Yeah,
like
they say Tura.
T-U-R-A, but it's T-H-Y-R-A. So
yeah, it looks like Thyra. Anyway, his one son though was with like Uhtred all the time, and Uhtred was actually the one who still saved Thyra, Tura. Yeah, he did, and so that was another reason because Ragnar's son wasn't able to do that, but Uhtred was. So that was another reason he was like really like in the good graces of Ragnar.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So they meet Ragnar, who is just Ragnar now.
Him in the woods. And here's a cool moment in the show. Ragnar obviously was gone when his family got killed. Has heard the rumors that Uhtred did it, and that's like when they meet each other. Uhtred's like happy to see Ragnar, but Ragnar's hesitant. He's like, "Did you kill my family?" And Ragnar's like, "I'm insulted that you even think that." And Uhtred throws his sword down. He's like, "You can kill me now if you think I did. If you really think I would do that to our family, you can kill me right now." And you see this like mean Viking face turn into like loving brother. Like, I knew you didn't do it. and they go and they hug, and this is my bro moment of the show, of this episode, is when they reunite.
Yeah, I'd say that was mine too. Is just him believing Uhtred, and
and then here's my other one too. Is they're like just catching up around the fire. They talk about taking revenge on Kjartan because he fills in Ragnar about Kjartan was the one who did it. And Ragnar's like, well, let's go get started on this. And Uhtred's like, I just kind of swore myself here for a year.
Yeah.
And Brita and Ragnar are like, so? And
Brita's more like,
being the respectable guy, is like, I gave my word.
But Ragnar's actually understanding at this point.
And yes, he does. So this is my bro moment. Is,
well, you swear.
Ragnar is like, you did swear your word, and I'll respect that. Although later on, when they meet again, he does not have the same reaction to that.
Yeah.
At first, Ragnar was like, well, you gave your word. I understand. We'll do this later. Mm-hmm. And then next time they meet, Ragnar's like, why the heck did you swear? Like to Alfred. Why would you swear to a Saxon?
Mm-hmm.
But at that moment, it was pretty cool, like that he understood, and it was kind of satisfying. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like Ragnar's a good dude, and you kind of grow to like, you really grow to like Ragnar.
Oh, yeah.
He's a cool character.
Great character.
Yeah.
And before all this happened too, one of the things that happened is that the Danes and the Saxons, they met and they made peace.
And this is another funny scene.
This is another great scene. So Uhtred, who's now King Alfred, Leofric, and a few other Saxon people, they meet Guthrum and Ubba and the other Danes, and they're talking about terms. The Danes want silver to stop raiding. They want some land to settle on. And Alfred's having a guy write things down, to keep a log of everything, as he does. And Guthrum's like, what does this man do? And he's like, Alfred tells him he's writing everything down.
Everything we say?
Everything we say?
Every word.
Every word. What if I
think Guthrum says this. Go ahead.
He says, let me say, ass, tits, turd, hump. And
it's just like
the most childish thing when you hear, oh, you're writing down everything I say? Ass, tits, turd, and hump.
And it just kind of shows the Viking humor. Like in the show, the Saxons are always like super serious. Mm-hmm. Except like Leofric jokes around sometimes, but otherwise they're all just strict and serious and like no fun. And the Vikings are always just like having a good time when they're doing stuff.
Yeah. So. Also, when Brita, she went out and tripping on mushrooms. A little bit later too, she had a miscarriage that Uhtred found out. So I mean, she hasn't been a big fan of the
another
whole
good example of like the
Saxon
supernatural versus non-supernatural.
Oh yeah. Well, you don't know at this point.
Oh, sorry, should I not say it yet?
Well, yeah, we'll wait, but we should say that Story did curse her.
That's all I was gonna say.
The guy, she put a branch up his ass.
That's all I was gonna say.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's fine to say. So there's a good example. Is like they thought it was a curse, and in reality, like back then, that happened all the time.
Yeah.
That
and a lot of people even today, that we need modern ways for people to become pregnant, or it's a lot more difficult for them because of defects or things like that.
There's also a rational explanation for it.
Yeah.
Right.
So this one was a bit more of a setup, but it still had some good moments. And should we say to her vision? In her vision, she saw on a boat. She was looking forward, and on the front of the ship, I think the stern, or is it the bow? I don't know. The front of the ship, there's like a guy, and he's like a kid at the front of the ship, and behind her, Ragnar, the younger, is like hugging her, but you never see the face of the guy at the front. I always thought it was Uhtred, but
I think
we know but I don't really know. I mean, she leaves with Ragnar, the younger, on a ship when the Danes are leaving.
So the Danes.
So I don't know if that was supposed to be her vision, but like I never really felt like that vision was ever like touched on as to what it meant. I don't know if it was just meant to be her leaving with Ragnar, but like the two people at the front of the ship with the kid and the older man, I always thought was like supposed to be Uhtred and like someone else's kid or something. Yeah. And anyway, they never really touch on that, so I don't know if that's something or what. But
yeah. So let's go back to the meeting with the Danes and the Saxons, where they're doing the compromise there.
Yeah.
So the Danes, they agree to go back to London and stay in Mercia. Right.
Yeah, for a silver price of some. Yeah. Some to stop raiding. So there's a peace now between.
So they establish a peace, and they agree. That's kind of the big thing I think that happens this episode. Uhtred, I think is this the one Uhtred tells them it'll take like a year for them to get more men they'll return. He knows they're going to come back, but it'll take like a year.
I think so. Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much that. It ends with Breda leaving and
Uhtred's like got tears in his eyes,
and he knows that he's in service to Alfred. Oh, yeah. An important thing too. He wishes he could be a Dane, but one of the things Leofric reminds him is, who would you be if you were in the Danes? You could not be Uhtred of Bebbanburg. You couldn't be Uhtred of Bebbanburg if you were a Dane, because if Uhtred used the Danes to take back Bebbanburg, he would just be another Dane puppet, or the Danes would be. It wouldn't be
instead of being the rightful heir to the land.
Just like how Egbert is like a puppet king for them, or the other kings the other kingdoms they're conquering, where they leave the kings in charge. Uhtred it wouldn't be his place. It would be the Danes' hall.
Yeah.
In Bember. So that's why he's sticking with the Saxons, even though we're both, I think, at the point we're watching this, we're like, just go with them. Danes. They're the cool guys.
They're so cool.
They're the cool guys.
But when you think about it, they're the ones invading and like killing and
Yeah, they're the ones raping and murdering everyone. But they're so much more fun, not because of the raping and murdering, but just the way they live, and they're at least they're portrayed like how they look at life and everything. And I think Uhtred's the best of both Saxons and Danes.
Right. Because he's probably not going to do a lot of the things Danes are going to do, like needlessly kill.
Yeah.
But he also knows how to have a good time and
not be so pious. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
what was your favorite moment from this episode? Mine was probably the shield wall training.
Yeah, I think the training was cool. I think that's what stuck with me the most, for sure. Yeah, I would have to say the training scene. Yeah.
And what was your best bro moment? Was him and Ragnar?
Yeah, him and Ragnar. Yeah. When they met, and Ragnar knew that Uhtred didn't do it. It's like
that was mine too. Yeah. Do you want to do one more then?
Let's do one more episode. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so we're moving on.
There's only 8 episodes in season 1, so we'll be halfway through.
Yeah. So I guess we'll split this in 2 parts. So we'll do one more, check back. Anyway,
let me tell you, it is so hard to spark note this. Holy moly!
Yeah,
so much in each episode.
Yeah,
I feel like if we're doing Game of Thrones, we'd be talking about like episode 1, 3, 6, 8. Yeah. We'd be like skipping some in the middle, But you just can't.
They're dense. I don't know. They're really dense, and that's another thing. Like you said, that's good about the show though, is you never feel bored. I think there's a couple episodes, throughout the whole series, the whole 3 seasons, where I'm not so much bored as I am frustrated with, the characters' circumstances and things like that. And even those, when I was like thinking back, I was like, oh man, I hated when like Uhtred was in this situation. It felt like it was like 2 or 3 episodes. But when we went back and watched, it was literally it began and end in that episode. That shitty situation. Where one of the examples, when he was sick. Like in my head, I was thinking, oh, he was like sick for like the first half of that season. He was sick for 1 episode.
Yeah,
and he was back to being Uhtred.
It feels like forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right, episode 4. So
episode 4, yeah.
They kick off. They have the peace going on.
And remember, Alfred had arranged the marriage for Uhtred, which he agreed for. And Uhtred's all nervous, like, "Oh, I hope she's pretty. Hope."
Yeah,
you know.
He says like, "Well, if she's like her age, why isn't she married off already? She must be ugly or something."
Yeah.
If I'm not allowed to see her, and because at that time, if you were 15 and you weren't married, as a rich guy's daughter, you were either ugly or something was going on. So that's what he's thinking right now. But he gets to the marriage and they jump, and she's a pretty ginger girl,
Yeah.
And but she starts crying because she's marrying a pagan,
Yeah.
not her dream wedding there.
Yeah. Exactly. But, so she's like upset, and Uhtred's like super happy when she like takes her hood off and he sees she's pretty, and you just see Uhtred just like, heck yeah.
Like, all right, this ain't bad.
Yeah. And she starts crying, and Bianca's just like tears of joy.
Bianca
she's just so sad. She's just so sad she has to marry a Saxon because she's super pious. She's super, or a Dane. I'm sorry,
You're right.
A Dane, because she's super pious.
Yeah.
So Uhtred's all happy. They're riding back. And he's just super cool to her. He's like a gentleman. And even like, I would say even before they start getting back, like she's already starting to grow fond of him a little bit, but not a whole lot. She still doesn't like him that much. But
he's being polite to her.
But he's being polite to her, and she didn't expect
like, call me Uhtred. Don't call me Lord. And
yeah. When they're headed back, Uhtred's still trying to figure out like why she hasn't been married yet. We find out that there was a debt on the land that he just inherited.
Her father had the debt, and then she has it. So because he married her, now he has it. Now he owes like all this silver. It was like 3,000.
2,000
to the church. Slash Alfred could lift this debt if he wanted to. But he did not. And you just realize
Uhtred thinks he's been deceived. Uhtred thinks he's been lied to, and like everyone he goes and complains to is like everybody, like all the Saxons are like, this wasn't a secret. Everybody knew this.
Everybody knew.
Uhtred would have no reason to know this, but like because he hasn't been around that long. But everybody else is like, this is common knowledge.
Oh, Alfred knew. He intentionally did this because.
Oh, I know. Like, I'm just saying, like, when like Uhtred went to like Bianca and said, "How could he do this?" and Bianca's pretty much like, "It's not a secret." Like,
it's not a secret, Lord.
People know about this. Yeah. So anyway, so they get in a fight the first night, and then Uhtred ends up going to apologize because he is a good dude. He got his anger out, but he's like, "I know it's not your fault." Yeah, I know it's not your fault, and And then they actually get along pretty good.
They start making kissing after he apologizes to her.
Oh,
she's like, "I am your wife," and he just like pulls her in all Dane like, and you're just like, "Ooh, oh my," and like he kisses her once, and then they cut, and she's getting out of the water, pregnant.
She's pregnant. Well,
and like that's why I just don't kiss anymore, because I'm like,
I know
it's too risky. It is way too risky. I've got a future ahead of me. I can't be having kids kissing girls.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'm not. That's a good idea.
So I'm so glad everyone's doing social distancing right now, so I don't have to worry about that.
No, yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
Oh my god. Because before this, I didn't realize that the first time you
know how it worked. Yeah, and this showed me, and it's
I think that was like our
first show.
Yeah,
I learned a lot. From the show.
Yeah. I think that was our first like really big time jump since Uhtred's thing. And we were both like, what? we obviously knew a kiss didn't make her pregnant, but we were both kind of like, oh, it's been a while, I guess. But anyway, Alfred did, Leofric has said to Uhtred before, the bastard thinks. Don't underestimate him. Don't think that you've outsmarted him, because odds are he's put you in a place where he can keep a hold of you. That's what he did with Mildred. That he promised Uhtred land. He got him a wife. So a wife means he has to be stable, loyal to his wife to keep that land. It also means now that he's in debt to the church, he's kind of has to listen to the church, at least in Alfred's mind. That's what he has to do because he's a pagan. This is, he's in Alfred's mind. These are all the steps he needs to take to get Uhtred to be a good, God-fearing soldier of Wessex, But anyway, Uhtred's out on his land then. He's looking down. He sees Guthrum got all of his guys marching through the land.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Ragnar's there.
Over. Yeah,
Rita's
Ragnar.
there.
Rita's with them.
Yeah.
So he goes to Alfred. He tells him this. They go out to meet Guthrum, who's at a fort right now.
Yeah.
And so apparently Guthrum's plan was to attack and invade Wessex, but Ubba had left.
Yes.
He'd like abandoned Guthrum. He'd left them
because his brother
Ivar,
who is Ivar the Boneless,
died in Ireland. And I didn't pick up on that the first 2 times I saw it. This time when I was
so then we went after we watched Last Kingdom, we went and watched Vikings, and we meet Ivar the Boneless in Vikings. Who in Vikings he does have a brother named Ubba, too. So there's a lot of parallels with the characters. Even King Alfred's in Vikings, which is pretty cool. In fact, we're not sure, but the main character of Vikings, his name's Ragnar. It's certainly not young Ragnar.
No. It's supposed to be
probably,
another Ragnar who's not even
probably another Ragnar. Yeah, because Ubba's name is Ubba Ragnarsson.
Yeah.
So
it's Ragnar.
So I don't think it was Ragnar the Fearless either, but it was somebody else named Ragnar.
I think Ragnar is more like Jim or Bob, maybe for Vikings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Ragnar's a common name.
I think it's more of a common name.
It's a cool name.
Because Danes have already been invading for a while, and we know from Vikings that Ragnar led the first group, of Vikings that invaded England. So it does seem like if you like Vikings, that's a prequel to The Last Kingdom. So you might be like, oh, what? Who's that? But yeah, so Ubba, he's a little bit different in this show. He's a lot bigger,
But he hears Ivar get killed. He's got to go get some revenge.
Yeah.
By the way, I won't say it because it's a spoiler for Vikings. Never mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. In show Vikings, they're not the best of friends though.
I was just gonna. Well, yeah. So all I was gonna say is like, if that happened in Vikings, he probably would not have gone to get revenge.
Yeah.
Their relationship was not that good. Anyway, but.
So he leaves.
He has to leave. So that
Guthrum doesn't have enough guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're waiting in this what was it? Where are they?
They're on some
Wareham
fort. It's Wareham or something. I don't know.
And Guthrum, they're just basically going to wait there for Ubba to return, and then they're going to attack.
Yeah. But Alfred goes out to meet him though, and Guthrum says, "Oh, we're gonna have peace, and don't attack me. Let me have some food come into the fort. Don't let us starve." And so they have like a sort of uneasy truce, but they exchange hostages. So the Saxons give up, I think, like 10 of their guys. The Danes give up 10 of their guys, basically to say, we'll do our end. Don't kill our guys that we like, and then you'll do your end, so we don't kill the guys you like.
Yeah.
And so then Uhtred is actually one of these hostages. Him, a priest, and a few other like lords, they go over to the fort with Guthrum and the other Danes, and Ragnar's in there. So him, Ragnar, and Brita get to hang out and bond, and I really like that part too. Is when they're all bonding again.
So that was my bro moment of it, was just them hanging out, and they're playing tug of war, and like so Ragnar lets Uhtred hang out with them while all the other prisoners are being held in the church, I think.
Yeah.
And they're just having a great time. Uhtred's having a great time, and Ragnar's like, "See, you belong with us,"
Mm-hmm.
We also find out that Ragnar and Brita are a thing now.
Yeah. One of the things too I liked about the tug of war is like him and Ragnar pull in, and Ragnar's like, "Pull for me, brother. I have to take a piss," and he just lets go.
And his team loses.
And they have like coals in the middle, and that's how you know the other team lost, is when they step into the coals. So Uhtred has to like step through the coals and stuff, and it's just a great Viking time going on. But like you said earlier, Ragnar, is talking to Uhtred, and he's like, "Come on, just stay with us. Don't go back. Stay with us. It's you're here now. It's fun." And Uhtred's even like, "I haven't laughed this hard, and like I can't even remember." And but then he's like, "I can't. I swear to Alfred, I got a wife, got a son on the way." And they're like, "Oh, you suck, Uhtred." And like, get in the church with everyone else.
Yeah.
He's still working for Alfred though.
Yeah. So he's was ordered to listen for when Ubbo returns, and then he's got to get that information out.
Yeah, he has to light a fire.
It's like a very Lord of the Rings moment.
Mm-hmm.
Where like they light the fire on one hillside and it lights on another hillside. It's awesome.
Yeah. And
there's just a guy on the other hillside always staring at that fire.
There's always the fire hill
just
watching guy
all the time at any moment.
He's got to be frustrated. But can you imagine the day it finally goes off?
Oh, you'd be so excited.
You'd be so excited. His wife every day is just haggling him like, "Why do you go up there and watch that fire?" He's like, I got to do it for the king, and you don't understand.
Your job is purposeless.
No one gets my job. And like, they're never gonna set off that fire. And then one day it goes, and he's like, oh my god, what do I do?
And then the guy on the other hillside.
Same story. He's like, oh, finally, oh my god, I don't remember.
I bet that job's got great benefits.
You would think so. I mean, someone consistently there, right?
But great retirement fund. I would think
dental, eye, health,
full coverage.
Oh, absolutely.
Full family coverage.
Family. It's a good gig. I was trying to get into it. I didn't pass the background check though. It's very strict. It's much stricter than. It's very strict. It's like you couldn't have stolen a pencil back in grade school, kind of thing. So I mean, I didn't make it.
Even got the slightest bit distracted during your job interview, that's it.
Oh yeah.
If you got sidetracked for a second, because you need to stare at that bundle of fire.
That's a really good point, Colby. I think a lot of people don't think about that.
Yeah. They're always looking for that.
It takes attention. I didn't have it. I didn't have what it takes.
That's okay. Not a lot of people do. It's just like, I'm sorry, I got to say this.
What?
I don't know how to say this. There's a time later where they're going into battle, and Brita and the Vikings and Ragnar and Brita have a bunch of people, and they're waiting for a sign when they should attack. And they're just all kind of standing there looking at the ground, and the sign was an arrow on fire that got shot up. And Brita just like happened to look up and see it.
Literally everyone else was looking the other way.
Like, what if she just like nobody was looking?
That's all they had to do was wait for that arrow.
Yeah,
and they couldn't do it. I'm telling you, man.
Everybody else was just looking at the ground, twiddling their thumbs, and Brita just like, "Oh, there's the arrow." And everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah, that was season 2. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, but
great.
So Brita probably could have got that job.
Brita easily could have had that job.
Yeah. Saxons, though, probably didn't hire women to do that job. Vikings probably would.
Yeah. That's another thing, too, is, Brita, has like a more prominent role. We see in Vikings that Lagertha has a more prominent role.
It seems like in the Viking culture, like women could be warriors, women could have higher status compared to the Saxon, and it was like all about the men. And
yeah, it still seems like it's male dominant in Viking.
It is more so, but it's like women have way more rights. Like they can
absolutely.
Do more than the Saxon women can.
I do think it was though more male dominant too historically. I don't know if how the show is. But I mean, at least in the show, that's one thing that they have different is, and because I did see something on National Geographic actually, it was like were women Viking warriors or something like that, and they found some evidence that one of them was like a great warrior or something like that, and I don't know, but at least in the show, they are more, equal to the men in a lot of ways, or
absolutely.
But anyway, so Uhtred's there, in the temple, or not the temple, the fort. Meanwhile, they've been there for a couple months. Uhtred's wife has a kid.
Mildred.
She names
his
Uhtred.
name is, drumroll please, Uhtred. Son of Uhtred.
Son of Uhtred.
Son of Uhtred, who was brother of Uhtred and son of Uhtred. Oh god, I'm confused.
There's a lot of Uhtred's though. I mean, it wasn't really hard for her to think of a name when she pooped that baby out.
What about Uhtred? And Uhtred's just like, oh, I like that.
Did you read that in the book, honey?
Where'd you find that?
Also, during this time, a priest who's with the other hostages has been trying to convert Guthrum to Christianity. That was like his mission.
And Guthrum's like kind of like curious, asking all these questions about it. He's not like just writing them off, which I think is interesting.
Guthrum is anytime like a priest, he's kind of interested in them. He's still violent to them, but he's he's always interested in their God, and I think just their faith in it and kind of really makes him question and like, oh, I didn't know about this, and but anyway, he's trying real hard. He's even bonding with Guthrum, this priest. They're sitting and eating. The priest, by the way, seemed really cool.
Yeah, the priest did seem cool.
He's a cool guy to Uhtred and everyone, but him and Guthrum are eating, and Guthrum, hears from a messenger that Ubba's come back, and that also Guthrum's forces are coming in too, his reinforcements. So Guthrum's like, all right, peace over, kills that priest, says to all of his, he says, kill all the hostages, and Uhtred's like, crap, I'm a hostage.
and Uhtred went in and asked the priest if Ubba came back before the priest died, and the priest said, yeah, so there's the information Uhtred needed, and now Uhtred's just like, I gotta get out of here, but everyone's trying to kill me. And Uhtred's doing okay fighting off all these guys, but he ends up getting overwhelmed. He like jumps off of this like balcony into like this corner of this courtyard.
He tries to parkour onto a tree.
He tried to parkour onto a tree, right. He was like, parkour.
It was real Michael Scott level. He grabbed onto the branch. He was like, ugh!
Yeah. And when he gets down there, he's pretty much screwed. And Guthrum like orders his men to kill him. Mm-hmm. And Ragnar and Brita come up and get in the way. And Ragnar's like, if you want to kill him, you got to kill me too. And here comes another great bro moment. You kind of think about it now, like if Ragnar just let him kill Uhtred, then they totally would have whooped butt.
Oh yeah, because Uhtred's really the only thing the Saxons, at least in the show, that gives the Saxons any sort of edge. He taught them to shield wall. He teaches all the leaders like, no, we shouldn't be wasting our time doing this. We should be doing this. Things like that. But I mean, it's Uhtred did swear to him. Whenever you need to get revenge on Kjartan, I'm with you, man. And they're still bonded. They're brothers. They've had all that history. So
that's cool.
Uhtred goes out. He leaves. Uhtred lights the fire.
He lights the beacon, man. And
you just see all these ships coming in from Ubba and Guthrum's reinforcements, and that's the end of that one.
That's it. That's the end of halfway through the season. Just look how much happened.
That's
4 episodes. That's 4 episodes.
And we are 220 in.
We got to stop, I think. But
yeah, we'll stop.
But yeah, it's just, you got to watch the show. You got to watch it.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean that's the first half of the show. That's really about where the first book ends too. I listened to an audiobook version of The Last Kingdom from Bernard Cornwell, and it was 11 hours long audio. And that's pretty much where it ends. It's a little bit beginning of the next episode happens, but then it ends like right there before, Ubba's forces meet the Saxons, before this piece really ends. That's where it ends. So, I mean, the whole book just happened in 4 episodes. And,
Yeah.
And it like I said, it didn't feel rushed. I mean, it was good. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Do you have any other thoughts or?
I don't know. I think it's nice to have the perspective from the book too. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, and let's just say those 4 episodes are amazing, but it's just getting started. I mean, it gets so much better.
It's just getting warmed up, people.
It's just getting warmed up. And I think it's cool to see how Uhtred grows too. At this point, Uhtred is very, sometimes it just doesn't seem like he thinks before he acts sometimes.
No, he thinks sometimes he thinks with his dick, sometimes he thinks with his hands, he thinks long term as in Bebember.
Yeah.
I need this
and he
person
is smart.
to give me to Bebember.
He's very smart. But,
tactically aware, battle aware.
He's not super. He's still kind of immature, I think, at this point. So
exactly.
It's cool to see Uhtred grow, and he does. Even by the end of season 1, I think he grows a lot, and then even more throughout the rest. So we'll talk about that more next episode. So I think our plan will be to get through the next 4 episodes during our next podcast, and then we'll probably move on to season 2 after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is we're gonna have this as part 1 then. The last
one, part 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and so tune in next time. Our part 2 that should be coming up real soon too. We'll jump on that. So just if you're done listening to this, hop over to that one now then and get rest of the way. But that one will cover episodes 5 through 8 then. Yeah, and that's where we really get cooking there. So if you need a little bit more summary before you start getting into season 4, or you're real on the fence about the show, we got your summary review here. Yeah. So stick with the Screen Chronicles. Yeah, you can find us on podcasts, on any podcast host, YouTube, The Screen Chronicles. We are on Facebook, Instagram. We are The Screen Chronicles, all one word, _. And you can find Stephen Colby on there too. If you just go on our Screen Chronicles thing, you can link on to us. We're tagged in most of the photos and things like that. So,
in fact, there's a really good photo of us with Uhtred.
We
took before one battle one time.
Oh, great battle! Land in silver.
Awesome. It was an awesome battle. Oh my God, the silver! I still have some.
Oh my! We'll give you some silver. We'll give you some silver.
Oh yeah.
All right.
And
any final words then too?
Watch. Oh yes. Uhtred, get on the show, man.
Alexander Draymond. We're gonna put out all these recaps for you. I hope that season 4 then. I think when season 4 comes out, maybe we'll do an episode by episode. We
should. That'd be cool.
If you want to hop on to one, for us to talk, that would be fine. We could Skype or Zoom or something to get on. Or if you want to come hang out, that's fine too. But we're all in quarantine
social
here.
Distancing.
We're social distancing, and we don't want to risk any hugs right now.
Oh, it'd be so hard.
It'd be really hard.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up for the first part. Man, we just love talking about it so much. We can't even. Can't even get through a whole season.
I know, man. That's the way it is, though. Yeah. All right, so tune in. Next time, part 2, we'll have season 1, episodes 5 through 8, a little summary and review. Talk about the main points, our best moments, our best bro moments. So come back. Stick with the Screen Chronicles, baby.
Absolutely. Stephen Colby out.